Hello everyone. I'm going to present a paper on image steganography, which basically covers the various techniques which are out there in the world. So before jumping into image steganography, let's understand what steganography is. So it is basically hiding one information into another information. Or we can say that it's hiding the fact that communication is taking place. So from attacker's point of view, this whole situation is like finding a needle in a haystack. So if attacker gets a hint that there is a needle and the attacker is motivated enough, then they can find it and no one is stopping them. The data is not encrypted. It's completely different than cryptography. So we can say that steganography is sort of security through obscurity. It's a classic example of that. So in this steganography, there is an important term called carrier. So carrier is basically a signal or a file where the secret is hidden. So these carriers can be of multiple types: texts, images, audio, videos, and even protocols. So if we look at a protocol, then let's take an example of TCP/IP. So a TCP header has some reserved fields and it has options. So these kind of fields, they can be used to store information and sent across. And since they are not generally used in a normal communication, these parts of the header can be used as a carrier. For a text file, the way it works is maybe some information gets hidden in the white spaces. So there is a huge text file, and after each line, if we append some white spaces, maybe that is what is used to hide some secret information. Let's quickly have a look at it, how that works. So there is a tool called Snow, which does exactly that. So let me run it. I have a carrier file. Hello. Hello world. That's all. Now what I want to do is I want to hide a secret message inside this file. So what I'll do is this is where I'm gonna run Snow, and I have a command handy. So what I'm gonna do is I'm gonna run Snow, and this is my secret information. My Swiss bank account number is blah 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 blah, and I'm gonna store this information. So basically, I'll use readme.txt as my carrier file, and my output file will be readme2.txt. And I can protect it with a password. Let it just be magic. Okay. So readme2.txt would have been created. If we have a look at this file, it still looks like hello world. But see what all this is. This is blank space. So this is where our data has gone. Now, the way I can extract information from this is again using Snow. If I just pass in my password to readme2.txt, my bad. See, it shows what the secret information is. So this is how text files are used for steganography. Apart from text files, the best classes of files are images and audio video files because they have a lot of redundant information. So the frequencies in audios, they are spread across a huge spectrum, all of which is not used by a human ear. Similarly, for images, there are very spectrum of colors, and adjacent colors or colors with nearly similar values, human eye can't perceive the difference between them. So now let's look at what image steganography is. From a layman perspective, when image is used as a carrier, it's simply image steganography. And a layman would not be able to find a difference between two pictures, one with one a plain carrier and another one with secret information with it. But again, nothing is encrypted here. So if someone gets to know that there is hidden information, that information can be extracted. So just to reiterate, steganography is not cryptography. Cryptography keeps the contents of a message secret, and steganography keeps the existence of a message secret. But both of them can be used in conjunction. Encrypt using cryptography and hide using steganography. This is kind of a layered security approach. difference in depth. So now, since we are going to talk about image steganography mostly, let's understand some concepts regarding images. So how does a computer see an image? It's just a strings of zeros and ones. That's all the computer knows. So these strings, this binary string that represents numbers, and those numbers show the intensity or light. And they form a grid of pixels, and these pixels and the number of bits used for each pixel is the bit depth. So basically, a bit depth is nothing but the number of bits which are used to represent one pixel. For example, a monochrome or a grayscale image, it only uses 8 bits because it's just different shades of gray, 256 shades of gray. Now, for colored images, they're 24 bits because a colored image is stored as RGB, red, green, and blue. And each color, they use 8 bits. Now, we all know what compression is. It's reducing the size of something. And again, it's of two types, lossy and lossless. Lossy means remove extra data, which is the redundant information which the human eye can't perceive. And lossless means represent the data in such a way in mathematical formulas that the integrity of the original image is maintained. So there is no loss of bits per se. So JPEG, which is one of the most common image formats, it's an example of lossy. And GIF and BMP, they are all lossless image compression techniques. And why do we care about them? Because the type of compression an image algorithm uses, it plays a role in choosing the steganographic algorithm we are going to choose. So there's one more concept about image domain and transform domain. So this is what steganography in these two domains looks like. So in image domain, the message is embedded directly into the pixels, and it's suitable mostly for lossless compression techniques like GIF. Because if if we embed some information in the pixels and the image becomes lossy, then that information could be lost. And for transform domain, the algorithms are manipulated, and the image is hidden in more significant parts of the the message is hidden in more significant part of the images, and due to this it can work with both lossy and lossless image formats. So this is what the domain of image steganography looks like. There is transform domain, there is image domain. So as we discussed, that transform domain can work with both lossy and lossless, and JPEG is the lossy compression. So JPEG involves transform domain steganography, and BMP and GIF can be done in image domain. Again, the type of steganography technique we choose depends on the format of the image. So now let's look at the steganography methods in image domain. First is the least significant bit. So LSB of pixels can be used to embed secrets. So as we discussed that each pixel is either 8 bits in grayscale or 24 bits in RGB colored image. So the least significant bit of each pixel that can be modified, and that modification can be used to store the hidden message. But since we are modifying this smallest bit, so does it change the intensity? Yes, it definitely does. But does it change the intensity enough? Well, you tell me. These are two different images, two different colors, and the R, G, and B values of both of them differ by just 1 bit, the least significant bit. And to me, both of them look exactly the same. So I don't think that. So yeah, according to me, that LSB works wonders, and human eye can't perceive such changes. But there is a little downside of using LSB. So the most used format the format which can be used most frequently with LSB is BMP, which is a bit obsolete. So it may arise suspicion that why someone is using BMP. Are they actually hiding some information in that? Also, this LSB technique is a bit easy to detect. So the way to overcome that is the sender and receiver can share a key which specifies which pixels hold the data. So now comes LSB and palette-based images. So this particularly talks about GIF format. So how GIF works is a GIF image can only store 256 colors maximum. And in the beginning of the image, there is a dictionary or a palette which maps an 8-bit number to the color. So basically, one out of these 256 colors can be used inside the image. And the palette is ordered from most commonly used color to the least commonly used color, just for lookup optimizations. So when colors are used in this dictionary and while rendering, the color palette is used to figure out what color it is. Again, with this LSP and palette-based images, there are some pros and cons. Uh, like what if the adjacent palette colors, they differ a lot? So if we change one bit, then the whole color changes. So that would create a lot of problem because such differences the human eye can figure out. So way to overcome that is probably rearrange the palette to have similar looking colors together. But that would result in having different colors together, that would change the image significantly. Another solution is to add new colors to the palette, which go into which become the adjacent colors of already existing colors. But this would mean that the original palette should have less colors inside it. And tampering with these palettes is easy to detect. So again, if we try to manipulate GIFs with LSB, then it's high chance that our steganography is detected. Another solution is to use grayscale because, again, there are not many shades of gray, which human eye can differentiate between. So this is one of the techniques. Now let's look at steganography in transform domain, mainly JPEG. So JPEG comprises of lossy compression, and it is not possible to have steganography in a pure lossy compression scenario. The data just might get lost. But in JPEG, it is somehow possible. Let's look how. So JPEG actually has two stages, one of which is lossy and one of which is lossless. So, so the DCT and quantization phase of the JPEG image generation is lossy, and then that this generated byte stream that goes under Huffman encoding, which is lossless. So the LSB insertion happens in between these two steps. And if that is happening before Huffman encoding, then Huffman encoding is obviously lossless. So that's how JPEG actually stores the hidden secrets. Now, there are a few steganography techniques which can be used in both image and transform domains. So let's look at the first one, which is patchwork. So patchwork basically means a lot of redundancy. So two groups of pixels are selected and illumination in one of them is increased and in the other one it is decreased. So this change in illumination in these patches, they depict one bit. Now, the good part about this is that since a lot of pixels are used in one patch, then it can survive lossy compression because even if a few pixels are lost during compression, then others will remain and do their job. But again, the downside for this is that only one bit can be encoded. The way we overcome this is by dividing the image into multiple sub-images. But again, the message cannot be too long because this division into subparts cannot be huge because the whole goal of patchwork is to survive lossy compression. So there has to be a high degree of redundancy. Then there is spread spectrum techniques where the hidden data is spread throughout the cover image. So the idea behind spread spectrum is that a narrowband signal is embedded into a wideband signal, and hence it becomes difficult to detect because the frequencies, the smaller frequencies, they get mixed with the larger ones. So here the data, the secret is mixed with the noise and then it's combined with the cover image. So power of embedded signal is much lower than the actual image and hence it's not perceptible to the human eye. So let's quickly look at a demo of how image steganography looks like. We saw that human eye can't perceive difference between two images. So yeah, let's quickly have a look at it. I'm going to use a tool called OpenStego. Now, I have a cover image and I have a secret message which I want to hide. So I'm gonna go and so this is a Java-based tool which does exactly what the name suggests, steganography. So in the message file, I will select the message which I want to save. Choose. And for the cover image, I am going to use the image which I opened. And I want to output this in a different image. So I'm going to name it output.jpg. For now, again, as I mentioned earlier, that steganography and cryptography can go hand in hand. So this tool provides us an option for adding passwords so that the outputted file can only be opened with a password. But now, for now, since we're just looking at image steganography, I'm not going to enter a password here. Let's just hide some data. Okay. So now the output got generated. So this is the cover image. This is the output image. I don't think just by looking at it, any human eye can figure out a difference. But now, if I try to extract the data out of the outputted file, let's extract data. I'm gonna output it in the same folder. Generated with the same name. So, all right, let's do one thing. Let's delete this file. And now let's try to extract the data. See, so the same secret message got pulled out of this image, which had the secret message embedded in it. So now let's look at evaluation of these different techniques, whatever we have discussed and how they are used. So there are a few things that we expect from a steganography technique, like invisibility, robustness, and the files should be unsuspicious. Then the technique should be independent of the file format, and many more. And in an ideal world, we would want that all these techniques they have high value in all these requirements. That would be great. but it's not the case. So depending on our use case, we choose that is what we want more, like what requirement, which of these requirement is our top priority. We choose one of these techniques to do image steganography. For example, if we want high robustness against image manipulation, then patchwork is the best, as you know that the hidden information is redundant. Now, if you want unsuspicious files, then it's better not we don't use BMP or GIF, because if you look at this, then it has a low score in BMP and GIF, because these file formats aren't used much. And if we care about that big secret data, if we care about big secret data size, then LSB is our best option. If you look at the payload capacity, then it's the highest in LSB, because each pixel can store 1 bit of data, or in case of colored, each pixel can store 3 bits of data. So after reading this paper, I could very well understand the pros and cons of different techniques and which ones to use when. So these are just my personal opinions, that the paper is very well written and it covers, as far as I know, all the image steganography techniques in a good fashion. But there are few things which were covered in a very abstract manner, like the spread spectrum techniques. I believe that if some more details were provided on such topics, it would have been a bit easier to follow along the paper. So now, after going through this presentation, even a layman should know that even though two pictures look same, they might not be the same picture. There must be some hidden secrets inside one of them. Thank you.